Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for part of our Engaging Families Learning Collaborative webinar series. Our topic today is engaging African American families, which has been a topic of discussion among all of the WIC sites that we've visited and lots of our events. And we really think it's important that everybody feel welcome at WIC and use WIC and be able to benefit from WIC. And we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and can get those benefits. So our special guest today is Andrea Serrano from Reaching Our Sisters Everywhere, which was created to address breastfeeding disparities among communities of color. And she's going to talk to us today about engaging African American families and making sure that they get the most out of services. So I will hand it over to her. And just a side note that I'm recording the webinar today, so if you want to reference it later, it will be available on our website afterwards. Oh, and the question box can be used to ask questions of Andrea or myself, and we can answer as we go along.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for the introduction. I am so glad that you all invited me to be a part of this initiative, and I read through the work and report that went through looking at the services and how it was supporting your communities. And so as a fellow California native, I'm very excited to kind of work through and talk through some of the stuff that Reaching Our Sisters Everywhere has done in our engagement, and hopefully there are some things that all of you are able to pick up and move forward with. So Sarah did an excellent job at reading our mission, and one of the things that I really want to specifically point out is that in this work in addressing disparities, mostly framed for us inequities, we do this work through doing trainings, education, advocacy, and support, and we're really focusing on addressing breastfeeding initiation duration for African American families and other communities of color, and making it once again a social norm. And so when we consider the word inequities, we want to dive into that a little bit more, and this helps to pursue your approaches in supporting communities of color. So we know with equality, we're providing the sameness. Everyone gets the same message, same resources, and in some cases, like this picture depicts, that even in receiving the same, everyone's not able to see that playing field, and so there needs to be a little bit of work going into leveling it so everyone has access. And this is what equity is that redistribution of resources to level the playing field. And so in this work, and what I'm going to talk about today is, how to go about redistributing your efforts and work towards helping to support African American families and other communities of color. Right now, the reality and what we look at for breastfeeding inequities is that, with the way resources are distributed and the support and access that is reality, it's something that really just shows the inequities. And so we know that with our program and with the work Rose does, we know the science, of course, behind breastfeeding and how much of an important it is for our community. But at the same time, we recognize that there's still a large percentage gap in the amount of African American babies that have received any breast milk. And so in this sense, the work that we do as an organization is a really targeted approach towards supporting our families in this process so we can level that playing field, because we know that the CDC has reported that although breastfeeding rates are going higher among all groups, that the gap, that inequity gap, is in fact widening, right? And so in some of our efforts that we have been participating in order to address this breastfeeding inequity, some of these are also tools and initiatives that can be replicated just in general in supporting communities. And so I'm approaching this work in packaging this entire approach through a model called CRASH, and I'm going to go through CRASH in a minute. But essentially, everything cannot be cookie cutter on how we do the work. You know, there's some things that are going to work, you know, in one particular community, in one area that is different. We even know that even the culture in California itself varies from whether you're in the Los Angeles area or the Bay Area. You know, there is some specific, you know, differences. But when you package everything with this CRASH model that I'm going to go through, it's in sense to making sure that the message and the work that you are trying to deliver is actually received, right? But then the content within it is specialized to a degree to support your communities. And so you're really looking at a community engagement approach. And so in traveling through CRASH, the C in CRASH stands for culture. And as it is defined here, culture is the thoughts, communications, and actions, custom beliefs, values, and institutions of racial, ethnic, and religious or social groups. And we know that everyone's culture, the core of everyone's culture, you know, may be tied into their race, ethnicity, history, religion, national origin, and region. That is the core of an individual's culture. But then it is also then influenced by their family dynamics, gender, personal, psychology, age, that all that has an influence on how a person navigates. So when we're looking at cultural competence, it's the emphasizing the idea of effectively operating in different cultural contexts and altering practice to reach different culture groups. And so in that altering that practices, this is once again looking towards that framework of equity, right? Because now we are redistributing how we work in order to make sure that everyone is receiving, you know, equitable access to care, to resources, especially all the work that, you know, WIC does. WIC does some phenomenal work. We know the power of peer counselors. We know the power that WIC has in supporting communities and just making sure that the community also understands and is aware of these resources that are made available to them. And so the R in CRASH stands for understanding the respect, stands for respect, and understanding the demonstration of respect are more important than gestures of affection or shallow intimacy. So we all know that it is vital to feel like you are being treated with respect in whatever space, especially in a space where, you know, one is seeking out additional resources. We all know that everyone has different factors that affect their lives and what place they might currently be in. And so it's it can be a very vulnerable space. But when there's respect and when one can feel that this person that is talking to me, that is interacting with me, supporting me, truly cares, then that can open the opportunity for that communication and to be receptible to the resources and information. And that respect then can build into trust. It is important, and the A in CRASH stands for assess and affirm. You know, assessing whether the person, you know, is able to fully, you know, understand the materials you're providing. So we're looking at, you know, health literacy, assessing their ability to even be able to access the resources that are made available. You know, so you're wanting to assess that whether the approach you are making is one that will be well received. And then also affirming, and affirming is recognizing the positive values in each other's culture, recognizing each individual as the world's expert on his or her own experience, and being ready to listen and affirm that experience. And so all of this, once again, is looking at this interpersonal connections that we are making with people we are working with, that we are engaging with in this process, and that affirmation is very important. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about in a minute will address some of our approaches and how we engage families in the community, but I can definitely speak towards this affirmation piece, especially when we're in our organization, when we're talking about breastfeeding and we're trying to encourage that social norm and have a booth out and we're talking to families, and we do have, women who will come by and say, oh, I wanted to breastfeed, this didn't work out for me, and things kind of turned out fine. And, you just go ahead and affirm their experiences. Like, they may have said, I may breastfed, 2 days a week, then I had to go. And you say, you know what, you did an excellent job with what you were able to do. You affirm, affirming their experience. And then we just go ahead into that aspect of, asking some follow-up questions. Well, tell me about your experience. And usually a lot of the times in these cases where we have been at health fairs and we have been engaging, our community and talking, we'll hear the story of, I didn't have, someone help me, it was painful, I was running into this issue, and once again we can go through that step of healing. And if they're at a point where, they are still able, they're planning is in a picture, possibility to have future children, then of course we let them know that we are a resource to improve their next experience. But if they're at that point where, they're not looking to have any other children, then we let them know that our work is to ensure that that experience that they had isn't something that's repeated, and maybe that if they have someone they know who could utilize our resources to share that information, because this is the work we do as an organization. And so that affirmation piece is an important part of that engagement, and almost provides an opportunity for healing if past encounters, weren't as positive. And so the S in CRASH stands for sensitivity and self-awareness, becoming aware of our own cultural norms and values, hot button issues, or tender spots that lead us to misjudge or miscommunicate with each other. And so, once again, I know for myself as a breastfeeding advocate, I am definitely, pro breastfeeding, breastfeed as long as you can. And I have to know that at the same time being self-aware of where I am on that, when I'm engaging community members, that there are going to be, some moms that may not feel that breastfeeding beyond 6 months or 12 months is a good thing. And so being able to actually have a conversation and to communicate and to be able to provide support and education, I have to understand that it's really not about how I feel about the matter, but exploring how they feel and being able to really just kind of engage with them in that conversation, because the idea of the engagement that we're doing is the person that comes to our table may not necessarily specifically need the breastfeeding information for themselves, but this is an auntie, this is a sister, this is a mom, this is a grandmother, this is someone that can be a middle point for us, that they're able to share what we as an organization is able to do with someone that they know. And so I want to make sure that I don't turn them off, but so therefore I'm self-aware of my stances, but understanding that I must be sensitive to their perspectives and being able to engage them and still provide a safe space for communication in the way that we can continue to build a relationship. Humility is the H in CRASH, and that is peeling back the layers of the onion of our own perceptions and biases, being quick to apologize and accept responsibility for cultural missteps, and embracing the adventure of learning from others' firsthand accounts of their own experiences. So all of those represent CRASH: culture, respect, assess, affirm, sensitivity, self-awareness, and humility. And so this is a model that if we consider this in any approach that is being guided towards working with and supporting the community, it will help to ensure that that message, that resource, that connection that we're trying to make is truly being received by the community. And to understand that cultural competence in itself is an ongoing process. It's something that we will continue to build upon and learn from. That is nothing to ever expect to be perfect at, but to understand that in developing and working through this process, it will help to effectively interact your interactions with people across various cultures. And the pictures that's been behind here is actually a picture from the Lift Every Baby event that happened during the first Black Breastfeeding Week. So that's the picture that I have behind these slides. Now, how Rose takes that work with CRASH and pulls it into our programs and some of the approaches that we have is that we do community trainings called Rose Community Transformer Trainings, and we train community, mothers that have breastfed in the past 5 years for at least 6 months. We train these phenomenal women on skills-based approach on being able to provide peer support to other moms within their own community. And so that way they will be able to be that local resource. And one of the great things is that through our training, which is very much closely aligned with the Loving Support curriculum, is that some of our ladies that have completed our training has gone forward and trained with the local WIC, because we've done this training all across the Southeast, and have been able to be breastfeeding peer counselors, at the WIC offices near them. So, some of them have gone forward, but it all essentially started with us working with them and training them on the skills needed to help support their community. So that way, this can truly be a systems approach of addressing breastfeeding inequities. And so the fundamental thing around our work with community transformers is that the community must be engaged in this journey to address maternal and infant health practices, and truly must be engaged by those from within the community, because the stakeholders and leaders within the community can readily identify what the needs are, what resources are needed. And so even in our own trainings that we do, we don't necessarily dictate what they should do, when they should do it, but instead our training focuses on a skills approach. That way this is a part of their tools in order to help them support their community with the needs that they have identified. And so if that means that the best place that is there to hold a breastfeeding club, to do the informal gathering, is at a bakery, and they know the person that runs the bakery, the local bakery to them, and that local bakery said it's okay for them to have a mom's group, that with that relationship they are able to put together a breastfeeding club at that location, and then utilizing the skills learned through our training, able to provide that evidence-based information and support women in their community. And so our community transformers, work side by side with us in doing one-on-one breastfeeding peer support in leading, like I said, breastfeeding gatherings in their community, and also participating in community engagement activities. And so here, you know, is an opportunity where we were at a health fair, and it just so happened that the local news station was there to kind of capture the health fair, and in a sense captured, you know, us at the table once again working and engaging our community. And so I understand that, you know, sometimes working within WIC and some of the different red tape and bureaucracy that sometimes happens, you know, in getting flyers together and getting information out can be a challenge. And this is where it's powerful to collaborate with community organizations. And, you know, as I said, I'm born and raised California girl. I know many, many community organizations in the Southern California area that do phenomenal work. And then if you consider that partnership with an entity like WIC and the work they do around community health fairs or, you know, family-centered events could stretch even further in that impact and, of course, in building that trust and engagement. And so Rose had partnered with AmeriGroup to host a baby shower at our venue space. And this was only a success through the level of community engagement that went on leading up to it. So, you know, AmeriGroup, with all their other events, they were, of course, reaching out, letting moms know about the baby shower. Rose Community Transformers, telling all the moms that they knew, getting that information out through social media. And of course, with Rose, we have drop-in clinic baby cafes on Monday, so letting moms know that we're coming to that baby cafe about the baby shower. We actually also do a breastfeeding club at a local Babies R Us. And so, you know, what not best place to recruit moms to come to the baby shower is from Babies R Us. And so through that, through the multiple channels of just disseminating that information, you know, allowed for such a great turnout. And there, you know, we had multiple tables where other community resources and agencies, so our local WIC attended this baby shower, Babies R Us attended this baby shower. We had someone from another, I believe, Goodwill attended, you know, with their community resources. And so although it was a baby shower, it was a great community resource event which allowed for such one-on-one engagement. And, you know, here, you know, we have some of the young ladies that actually interned with us at the Rose office, leading the Rose table and being able to engage and provide information regarding organization and resources. But then also, these ladies are from 3 different schools here in the Metro Atlanta area, and so they're also able to share information about work and initiatives that are taking place here at Rose or with other affiliated organizations and share that with people at their school, right? And so once again, just highlighting that it's important to consider the different avenues of outreach that is done. And I know you all had a wonderful webinar last week about fathers, but I'm still going to mention them here again, is that fathers and partners are caregivers, and to even consider that approach in how we work with our dads and engage them in this outreach, right? Because, you know, many just consider WIC to just, name is Women, Infant, and Children. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, with that overall image of WIC that there may not be a room for data, but we know that there are many WIC programs that have some excellent father support initiatives, fathers groups, and so in considering that and what that outreach looks like. And so here, there was another health fair that we attended, and the opportunity to kind of set up wherever we kind of wanted to at this venue, which was at a mall. It was another mall health fair. And here, you know, it was decided to set up shop in front of the barber shop. And it presented just a great opportunity to just have conversations. And everyone may not have signed the sign-in sheet, but I definitely keep a counter, a little clicker to at least be able to capture outreach. But it allowed for some great conversations, right? Because with the whole setup, you know, we have babies, we have cutouts and images, and you know, all the images are pretty much of, you know, African American families, and so, and this basket of chocolate was definitely a driving force to people coming to my table, you know. But the men that were at this barber shop, you know, they kept looking over. One of the barbers came over and said our cutout was staring at him, and the cutout was of a breastfeeding mom. But then, you know, he was like, but, you know, he said, but this is really cool, you know, what you're doing, tell me about it. Or they'll come and try to get some chocolate, you know, in the candy basket. And I said, well, before you could take some chocolate, you're going to have to hear some information about our organization, our resources. And of course, you had some that walked by and said, oh, I can breastfeed, and, you know, was ready to keep on walking. But then it's this conversation of, well, you know, even so, you might know someone who is expecting, have a little one, and might need some resources, and this is the resources that we have available for free. And, you know, just having that conversation, engaging them on that level. And so, you know, if they didn't take a flyer, they may have taken a picture of the brochure and the information and said, okay, I know someone I can send this to, right? But setting up shop right in front of the barbershop really helped to bring the information to the men, even if they weren't anticipating getting this package right there in front of their in front of the barbershop. The other initiative I would like to highlight is that this is Mary Alexander. She is with Healthy Start New Orleans, and for the past 2 years have made sure that there was a nursing nook at the Essence Festival in New Orleans. And as you can see on that banner, you definitely see the WIC logo. So this work that she spearheaded had a collaborative of many organizations, including the local New Orleans WIC, to participate at the Essence Festival. And here at the Nursing Nook, you know, moms would be able to pump or breastfeed their babies and or express their milk whichever way. We also had a changing table because the convention center, you know, actually didn't have any changing tables. And so, you know, we had a space where the family could kind of come, dads would come in and help. And then outside of that nursing nook was our resource table where people would be able to get information. And so there was a lot of hard work put into coordinating this opportunity to be here at Essence Festival. And so everyone there working the booth had these Eat Local shirts on, you know, great cutout of Louisiana, you know, the universal symbol for breastfeeding, you know, something that clearly, you know, we are here and we are here to support, provide information about breastfeeding and nursing, so on and so forth. And the most interesting thing is that even with these shirts on, that there's, to a degree, some connection kind of wasn't made. And what we kind of did during this effort at Essence Festival was walk around with the training dolls, okay? And with walking around with the training dolls, there were so many people, one, who thought the training dolls were real babies. And, you know, this is Tanisha pictured here in the Eat Local shirt. You know, walk around, they would look at us. We were sometimes we weren't paying attention on how we were holding, our training dolls, and so people were like, "Watch how you hold the baby," and so concerned about the baby. Then they're like, "Why are you even carrying these baby dolls?" Once they realized that they were dolls, and that led to some very interesting conversations because even though we had this shirt on that said "Eat Local" with the universal nursing symbol on it, that didn't grab the attention, that didn't generate the conversation. It was us walking around with the training dolls that brought everyone just looking at the doll, wondering why are these grown women walking around with training dolls here at Essence Festival. And then once, we piqued their curiosity, came up to us, asked us questions, what we were doing, we're really looking out for moms and families with small babies to let them know about the nursing. And that's what we were doing walking around. But on many occasions before we approached someone else approached us about, the training dolls. And then we were able to offer information about the Nursing Nook, about the resources available, where it was, why are we here, engage into some great conversations, all because folks were curious about these babies we were carrying. And when you think about Essence Festival attracts over 450,000 people this year. And we may not have talked to 450,000 people in the 3 days that we were there, but we definitely were able to just engage so many moms and families, through this work. We estimate close to almost 2,500 or so people that we were able to connect with throughout those 3 days. And so when we're thinking about events and opportunities, especially things happening, in California, even if it's not breastfeeding related, Essence Festival, this is, women empowerment, fashion, style, all of that, nothing related to breastfeeding, but still finding a way to be in that space, to engage and talk to families, to let them know about resources. And through that, there were many families who didn't know about Healthy Start, didn't know about the resources that WIC had available, and we're taking, chunks of information and say, oh, I know somebody, oh, I have a granddaughter, oh, I have a niece that has a baby, I'm going to give her this information. I didn't know that you guys were here. I didn't know that this resource was available. This is just an example of how you think outside the box on opportunities that are right there in front of our face, that are drawing masses, that are drawing a large amount of families to kind of come out and come together in ways to make sure that your presence is there, and not just there at the booth, but also walking through the event to talk to people, to connect with people, and being creative in how you go about that process, and drawing attention, in a sense, to yourself. Another thing to consider, this is a picture from Tennessee, and the Tennessee Breastfeeding Coalition, and I believe also the Shelby County WIC worked together in putting up this billboard. And what is, what I find to be extra special about this billboard is that, the woman that is on that billboard, she is from that community. That is Jada Wright. She is in Tennessee. In fact, she's been one of our Rose Community Transformers. She's doing phenomenal work. But most importantly is that she is a woman from that community, and here pictured on the billboard, breastfeeding. Now, granted, she says that, she may have gotten a few calls from fellow church members who may have reached out to her husbands, and I think I saw your wife on a billboard or wrapped around a bus breastfeeding. But once again, it's that connection, right, that, this isn't that this isn't a disjointed organization that's not a part of our community, but just reinforcing that no, this organization is a part of our community. Hey, that's someone I know, right? And so I am a firm believer that stock photos aren't necessarily our friends, because sometimes it lacks the relatability. And one of the examples is that there was some material that another organization wanted to, partner with us for Black Breastfeeding Week this year, and they said that they had some images that they wanted us to post in conjunction with the contest that they wanted us to do. And so when we received the images, and this is supposed to be an effort for Black Breastfeeding Week, none of the images were of Black females. There was no Black woman. There was no women of color in any of the images. But this was for an effort around Black Breastfeeding Week, and so we reached out. We were like, well, do you have any images of women of color that we can put out? And so they said, at this time, we have one that we were going to use. And we said, well, how about this? Can we take pictures and then use that, for this engagement, this contest, that we're going to do a part of for, National Breastfeeding Month and Black Breastfeeding Week and World Breastfeeding Week and so on. And it just so happened that we were having our conference around the same time all this emailing and phone calls are going on. And, we knew the importance of ensuring that the images that we were going to put out were images that women could relate to, especially, Black women. We wanted to make sure that there was images of Black women available. So they said that would be fine. They asked us, if you can do it in front of a white background. So at the Rose Summit this year, we made an announcement. We said, hey, if anyone would be interested in modeling some of the products so that we can have, images of women of color for this contest, let us know. We'll have a sign-in sheet by the registration desk. And within moments, that sign-in sheet definitely pulled a lot of names. And, at a certain point of time, people were coming up asking, is it too late to try to go and take pictures? And so we had the lady that was Elizabeth Gray Bain. She was our conference photographer, and we said, would you mind? She said no, and we went ahead and did an impromptu mini photo shoot so that way we could have pictures of women that were relatable, right? And so you don't need a photographer and a completely high definition camera, but essentially to have pictures taken at your events and utilizing that as a part of your marketing material, or if you're collaborating with another organization and let's say they have great pictures that they can use for their flyers, considering that, because that relatability, to be able to look at a flyer, look at an image, an invite, and to see that the images are ones that you could relate to, may help in bridging that connection. And so here is an initiative that the Massachusetts Breastfeeding Coalition put forth in their campaign on breastfeeding anytime, anywhere. And so they took pictures at multiple places, including the train, a church, a park bench, and put, some wordings on the different images and had them on display, on their metro, and just different areas around the community, and it was well received. Now, this particular photo was one of the photos I had at a table. I was working at a health fair, And this gentleman comes up, and, you know, he's looking around the table, and, you know, he's looking at this picture. He's like, okay, so what do you guys have here? What do you have? And I said, well, we have resources about breastfeeding. And he was like, I thought you had food. And I said, well, you know, breast milk is food. And he's like, no, no, no. I saw this eating on the go, and I thought there was going to be food here at this table. So although there wasn't any snacks that we had, you know, our basket of chocolate, but it drew about a great conversation afterwards, because after, you know, I was like, well, I got some chocolate here, but, you know, you're going to have to, you know, listen about, you know, the stuff that we do with our organization. He was like, okay, I'll go ahead and listen. And so we had a great conversation. He ended up picking up the model dolls and, you know, talking about breastfeeding. He was like, well, I was breastfed. There's nothing wrong with breastfeeding, you know, that whole conversation. And, of course, took some information. But, you know, the image was enough to capture his attention. You know, the eating on the go, you know, brought him to the table. And although he didn't receive exactly what he intended to in coming to the table, I know that he did receive the information. And so now moving and shifting gears a little bit from work done directly within the community and ways to go about that to social media. And I know, once again, that social media is an interesting thing to navigate, especially in working within WIC, because I know every district, you know, office might have their own different policies around it. But hopefully I'm able to share some tips and tools that can be used in your engagement, that even if you're not able to directly use it, through some collaborative efforts, you can make use of some of the tips. So social media is never to replace this one-on-one touch. It's to enhance it. It's to work as a stepping stone to generate attention, awareness, and bring people together on your efforts, right? That's how I push to social media. It's not to act as a complete replacement, because you can't replace the one-on-one touches and interaction that we have on a personal level. And so with social media, and using it as an opportunity to meet new collaboratives. So there was our conference we were planning in 2014, and we needed images for our program book. You know, we were kind of looking for a particular look to go with our program book. And I knew that on Instagram there was a page dedicated to showing images of Black women breastfeeding. And so it was ran by the Blacktivist. And so I reached out to her and I said, you know, hey, is there any way that we can use, you know, this particular image for our program book? And, you know, this is all through Instagram, an Instagram message that we're sending each other. And she was like, fine. She gives me the information I need to follow up, and we were able to get some great images for this program book. You know, we kind of stayed in touch via Instagram. I didn't know exactly what she looked like because, like I said, this page was dedicated to displaying images of mothers breastfeeding that were submitted by mothers. And so at the United States Breastfeeding Committee conference later that year in 2014, I believe, this woman comes bouncing towards me, and, you know, she's like, it's so great to meet you, so great to meet you. And for the most part, 90% of the time, I'm a very friendly person, especially when I'm standing near a dessert table. You know, so I give hugs, and I'm like, you know, nice to meet you too. You know, who are you? And she says, you know, I'm Felicia. I'm the Blacktivist. And, you know, that whole connection was made. And from there, you know, we have done some wonderful work, you know, with Felicia. I consider her a sister now. And, you know, she is definitely doing some phenomenal work around breastfeeding and, you know, that pursuing of, having breastfeeding be a social norm again in African American community, but to consider that that initial interaction happened because of an Instagram direct message, right? Just an example of just how powerful social media tools can be in forming some new partnerships that start off online, but that you continue to foster and go offline with. And so you can't talk about social media without hashtags. And, since I'm not sure exactly all who is on the call and their familiarity with hashtags, I'm still going to break it down. So once you have the pound symbol and a word or phrase with no spaces or punctuations, so no periods, colons, semicolons, none of that. It is the hashtag, pound symbol, and the word together, and that essentially is how you create the hashtag. And my emphasis on this is it is vital to create a hashtag to use for events. Vital. So if you are in a district, at an office that you necessarily can't go around creating all type of material and wordings to put out there, but if you can get agreements around a hashtag that can, be used to identify, your district, your office, your community, then that can be the hashtag used for all events, everything, and you tell everybody about it, and you continue to reuse it. There's a few hashtags that we use around Rose. One of my favorite examples to give is the Rose Adventures hashtag that I tend to use when we're out traveling. When we're doing work related to Rose, we're not home, we're not in our Atlanta area, we're out doing engagement, trainings, conferences, and I've been to plenty of events where, they don't have a hashtag and I still want to put something in. I use the Rose Adventure hashtags, and what that means is that anyone who is seeing that particular post and they click on that hashtag, they're able to see all the images or posts related to that particular hashtag. It's a great thing for me to even reflect back on when we go through and look at, where we've been. And these are, the images taken. So it's essential to consider creating one to help work towards raising that awareness and, drumming up buzz around the work you're doing or initiative that you are putting forth. And then it's important to keep it simple and short. I'm going to say this again, simple and short. If you tell someone your hashtag and they say, what is that a, then it's too complicated. You want to make it very simple to use so that way it's easy to remember. One of the tricks that I make sure that we do is in events where we're going to have a badge, a name badge on it, then of course we put the hashtag on the name badge. But if not, if you have little stand-up signs, you can put the hashtag there. Everyone else, in businesses and marketing are utilizing hashtags, and in this work around maternal, infant, child, family health, it's important to also consider it in this work too, because this is essentially marketing, getting that information out and raising that awareness. But you have to keep it short and simple. If it's too long, folks using Twitter, there's only 140 characters to go. If it's too long, folks that have a hard time, listening listening to what the hashtag is, may butcher the hashtag, and then you're not getting that information out there. Just keep it short and simple, something easy to use. And if you go ahead and just have a signature one that continuously is used, it can help work as a wonderful narrative, and not only for you, but for any of the social media platforms you use, people that look it up and see you know, okay, this is an event that they do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. You know, they can look at all the images and say, hey, you know, they're having fun, they're doing great stuff, I need to check this out, you know, at the next event, right? Because hashtags are something that are used across every social media platform. And I'm going to get into some of these different platforms in a second, but know that they're not going anywhere. Hashtags are here to stay, and so we need to make sure we're utilizing them to our best benefit. And so if you are creating a hashtag, or you are even using one that someone told you about, always, always, always search it first. See what comes up, what images are associated with the hashtag before you go around utilizing it, because you don't want to associate yourself with a hashtag that doesn't really represent you or the work that you're doing. And so hashtags are these keywords, and they are vital. People use them in a nonsense way sometimes, but there's also a very productive way to using them. And so when we look at some of our Twitter activity in 2015, and we did use tracking software that tracks, you know, the use of a particular hashtag to be able to get these numbers. But in 2015, with the BLKBFing hashtag, which stands for Black Breastfeeding, this is a hashtag that has been used by tons of other organizations and initiatives. But we know that, you know, with our usage through it, that we had reached 1.7 million accounts. The It's Only Natural hashtag, which is work that we were doing to help disseminate and raise awareness around the It's Only Natural campaign done by the Office of Women's Health. When we tracked the activity around that, we reached 1 million Twitter accounts. And then for our 2015 Breastfeeding Summit, where we had the Keep It Moving 15 hashtag, which was specifically associated with our Breastfeeding Summit for that year, 521,000 accounts reached. This is why the use of hashtags and doing so in an efficient way can mean so much when we're talking about engagement and raising awareness. And so plugging in with hashtags, you know, they don't have to just be event-oriented around, you know, a particular day or event that you've done something. This can be something that is done online. And so for Twitter parties, you know, for those that haven't participated in them, you know, it's basically like a live chat forum. And whenever Twitter parties happen, please understand that there will be a flyer, and should be a flyer for a Twitter party like there would be for any other event, where you'll highlight, you know, some of your collaborators. And this is when, once again, that connection with other community organizations, community leaders in your area is important, because then you can collaborate with them on doing a Twitter party, which lasts about an hour. And so in 2013, you know, that flyer previously shown, you know, was the Twitter party that we were doing for Black History Month. And that event, in that 1 hour time frame, reached almost 278,000 accounts through a Twitter party with BLKBFing, which at that time, that was the first time the BLKBFing hashtag was used. So to consider that in that moment, that this conversation around Black breastfeeding during Black History Month was able to reach so many accounts in an hour without spending, you know, the money people spend for Super Bowl commercials, just really shows, once again, the dynamics behind being able to effectively use hashtags in your engagement. And so in another year, once again during Black History Month, with the BLKBFing hashtag, it trended on Twitter. And not just trended you know, locally in Atlanta or in Georgia or the Southeast region, but it trended across the United States. And so, you know, if you haven't participated in a Twitter chat, you know, you can search a hashtag on Twitter and just watch the conversation happen in front of you. That is what is called lurking. You are lurking behind your screen, watching the conversation go. But if you decide to participate, you are going to need an account on Twitter. You are going to need to make sure your account is public and not private. And you search that hashtag, you compose your tweet, and you make sure that in your tweet you include the BLKBFing hashtag. So just like in the screenshot, everyone a part of this conversation has made sure that that BLKBFing hashtag is there, and that's how you start to participate. And there is a little bit more structure to the Twitter parties than just, you know, talking and posting conversations with a hashtag. There's some structure. So when you coordinate and collaborate on putting together a Twitter chat and having this online conversation, the hosting organization puts together about 10 questions. Because if you put together 10 questions and you release them about every 5 to 6 minutes, that is your hour-long Twitter chat. And so in this case, Moms Rising put together a BLKBFing Next Door Twitter chat for the Black History Month celebration, and they sent the questions out to everybody, and you know, as partners, all the partners associated with putting together this, participating in this Twitter chat, which gave us as partners an opportunity to pre-write our responses before the actual Twitter chat. And so here, an example, you know, when a Twitter chat happens, the Q2 stands for question, the Q stands for question, the 2, you know, references the number, what question number this is. And then go ahead and, you know, type out that question and include the hashtag being used for that conversation. And in this particular Twitter chat, Wellness Wednesday was the hashtag. And please understand that Moms Rising has a Twitter chat every Wednesday, and so if it's something you just kind of want to peek at and look at before, you know, maybe embarking on that journey, you can definitely, you know, see how there's a structure, participate there, and then go forward and utilizing it. And this is why I say community partners is essential, because if you have a community partner you're working with and you're thinking about doing a local related community, a local related Twitter chat, then that community partner, you know, and social media is huge, they could have a strong following, and that can generate just great conversations with your local community, right? So this doesn't need to be a solo thing. And of course, you can work together with that partner in putting together some questions and generating buzz around when the Twitter chat will happen, and then really just take off and have this great online engagement. Now, our friend Instagram here, Instagram has done some phenomenal updates which will allow for some easy posting across platforms, because it is hard to manage many platforms. But what Instagram has allowed, it has allowed you to have multiple accounts on the app itself. And with Instagram, you're able to share posts across platforms. So, you know, post to a Facebook page, post to your own Facebook timeline, post to Twitter. If you're using Tumblr, because Tumblr is still a big thing, you can post there directly from Instagram. And this can be just simply, you know, the profile used for posting flyers and images of upcoming events. And now with the business pages that Instagram has, you can shut down comments and just leave it simply to just posting images, so that we don't have to worry about moderating comments. And, you know, when you're working with other community members, community partners, you know, they can then reshare that information. And, you know, that is once again, disseminating, because social media is a huge part of everyone's daily lives. And, we see tons of sponsored information from all types of other businesses that, are capturing attention. It's important that this good work, that this raising awareness of what's happening locally around us and what opportunities and resources are available around us is also seen. And so navigating ways to make sure that information is out there. Now, if you can't post to Instagram, then the participants that come, maybe they can post a flyer to Instagram, right? This is when that relationship building is important, because if there's some limitations on what you're able to do, having that relationship and building upon that trust, that someone else could then post, the flyer and really get that information out to the community and draw some awareness to it. And so in revisiting hashtags and coming full circle with Essence Fest, the Nursing Nook was, like I said, developed and spearheaded by the Healthy Start in New Orleans. And so, there are, of course, some limitations that Healthy Start has, of course, on posting to social media and so on and so forth. But, we talked about, okay, what would be a great hashtag for this event, and came up with NOLA Nursing Nook. And that way, anyone else that came to the table, Rose, we as an organization, there aren't as many limitations in our ability to post. So, we were able to post great images about the Nursing Nook, utilizing the hashtag. Other people that came to our table, we said, use the hashtag, because everyone else was using the Essence Festival hashtag that was out there. If you're going to come to our table, just add our hashtag, into your picture post. And so that meant that we were able to kind of go back and look at this event, scroll through and see all the images that were taken, not just by us, but maybe by others that may have captured different points of this activity and this event. And so this is just an example of allowing hashtags and social media to kind of work for you, in a sense, because I know having to manage and be on top of every social media platform, is next to impossible on top of all the work that has to be done. But if you work things at a strategic way, then the social media can work for you. And so when we consider, what about Snapchat, Periscope, and whatever new app that will come out, realize that there's always going to be a new platform that's coming, and yes, it's an arduous process to get involved in all those. Some of these, especially Snapchat, is huge right now, can be a difficult thing to manage. But when you have a hashtag and you're using it effectively, then the people attending your event are utilizing these platforms, and they're posting. And most people, a good chunk of people, post from their Snapchat and also then share on their Instagram. And so if you have a hashtag, then they'll go ahead and type that hashtag in on their postings. And once again, you are allowing social media to work for you on platforms that you may not even have a profile on. And so coming to a close with this, teamwork makes the dream work in this community approach. And so you have to remember that in working through and building relationships with the community, it's important to consider the CRASH framework, of cultural respect, assess, self-awareness, humility, and and utilizing that in your engagement efforts and how you pursue those engagement efforts. And then to value the voices already at the table. You know, I know that there are many organizations, community groups in California that are doing some phenomenal work with communities of color, African American families. And so, you know, if brought to the table, you know, ensure that their voice are valued, and that respect is there to help build that trusting collaborative, and be open to fresh ideas, because it might be something imaginative that, you know, may seem a little interesting at first, but it's that will make the greatest impact. And I can't say it enough, let social media work for you, and navigate ways that you can be flexible in how you get that information out there. So even if you yourself or your district is unable to necessarily post to social media, but if you have a hashtag and you keep your flyers, you know, available, and you're going in and doing some community work, that you encourage other people to use the hashtag and post, and because they're able to. And that's something that Healthy Start did with us, because they were very limited in what they were able to post at Essence Festival. Rose, as an organization, we didn't have as much limitations, and so we were able to really just, you know, get that information out and those images, you know, into the social media feeds and help draw attention to that work. And so that is it. I thank you for listening. That hour has gone by. I don't see any questions, but I'm done.
Okay, does anybody have any questions that they didn't type into the question box? Or if you don't have a question box, because not everybody always does, into the chat box would be fine as well. I don't think I am seeing any. Oh, we have somebody, not questions so much, but somebody said that they have a hashtag they use, Friday Impact Day. And, and then just someone said, thank you for providing a talk on this topic.
Great. Thank you all for listening. I know I went over time just a little bit. Friday Impact Day.
Most everybody hung in there, so I think people were interested, and I definitely got some cool social media tips that I'm going to use at our next big conference, so thank you for that.
Excellent. All right, but if anyone thinks of anything, this is my email. Feel free to reach out. I usually have a really good turnaround on my email.
Someone asked if it's recorded, and yes, it will be recorded, and we'll post it on CWA's site, and then Andrea, I don't know if you have a spot on your site to post it, but we can send you the link to the recording as well if you
Definitely.
want to tweet the link out there.
Definitely.
And Karen said, great comment on stock photos. We need photos that also just show regular life, social media info. So yeah, I kind of agree that a lot of the stock photos look a little sterile and not that relatable.
Trust me, I hear, you know, it's a lot of our images that we have, they have come from our events. You know, our sign-in sheets, we always ask permission to be able to use photos and so on and so forth for educational and promotional purposes. And so we just then include those photos in all of our flyers, you know, and the flyers that we post to social media. And it draws, like, people are like, you know, even our cutouts that we have, I probably should have had a picture of one of our cutouts. You know, there's one person that, like, man, she looks so real. Like, I feel like she's really standing here. It's just that relatability, you know. It's like, okay, this is, or they'll look and like, oh, I think I know her. You know, it feels relatable. You know, it feels, you feel that connection, and it's something that's really appreciated. So.
And I know sometimes people can run into some red tape and, you know, having to sign consents and stuff when they want to take pictures of, for instance, WIC participants. But there are places out there, like I know U.S. Breastfeeding Committee has a breastfeeding photo library that has lots and lots of pictures available for just moms with their babies that are really good. And then our last webinar with the Alameda Fathers Corps, they were talking about doing some photo shoots with their dads to make available for a photo library for images of dads. And
exactly.
So getting that stuff
And
out
that's
there is
what we
really
did.
helpful.
We did do a photo shoot with moms, you know, because we wanted to really get some great high-resolution shots. And, you know, we had a local photographer. She didn't charge us much. You know, we had it on a Saturday. We bought lunch, and we had everybody come to the Rose office, and we had babies, moms, and dads. In fact, some of those pictures I did use here. In fact, the starting picture is from that particular photo shoot. And we said we'll give the moms, you know, we made flash drives and, you know, gave all the moms and families, you know, the high resolution shots so that way they can have it too, because this was then, you know, their photo shoot with their little one. And then now we're also able, and we had photo releases for that. So even if it's not something where you can always take pictures at each and every event and reuse it in a flyer, but if you do organize maybe something like, okay, this could be the photo shoot we do this year, and then we have a stock of images that we can use moving forward with the photo release.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any more questions trickling in, but thank you so much for joining us and giving us this great presentation. I think it sort of covered a really broad range of tips for people.
No, well, thank you. Thank you all for having me.
And everybody, if you have questions you didn't ask, Andrea has her email up, and then mine is on CWA's site as well if you want to contact me. And we'll post the recording, and I'll be posting that on social media when we post the recording, and it'll also probably be in the Flash, which is our newsletter.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. Have a good day. I didn't stop recording. Can you stop recording?